Theater number 3. Hope you guys are enjoying Ignite so far. Thank you for coming by. We're going to talk about Surface and Autopilot and the easiest deployment for today's mobile workforce. My name is Sean McLaren. I'm a program manager in our customer experience team, covering everything in the Microsoft 365 and modern devices world. So for the next 20 minutes, we're going to talk about how Surface is the best device for Microsoft 365. We'll talk about some of the unique capabilities that Surface has from a modern management perspective, including the ability to manage our UEFI firmware from the cloud, which we've announced here at Ignite this week. And I'm actually going to walk you through the entire configuration of an Autopilot deployment of Surface from end to end. So we're going to move pretty fast. We'll hopefully get through that. Hopefully something sparks your interest. Right next door is the Surface area here in the hub. We do have modern deployment sessions stood up over here on the far side that are running pretty much continuously. So anything you see in here that you like, you can go over there to learn more. But let's go ahead and dive in. I want to set a little bit of context. So think about Windows deployment the old way. This is the general Autopilot pitch. So when we build a custom image, we put all of our drivers in it. We run our task sequences to get apps and settings and things like that just the way we want them. You're basically doing a lot of work to take what was shipped on a device, wipe it off, put something else on there, and then turn that into a business-ready device. Essentially, time and money. So when you think about Surface from a modern deployment perspective and leveraging Windows Autopilot, we're going to take that off-the-shelf Surface machine with our Windows signature image on it. We're going to transform that device with minimal interaction to make that a productive device for our employees. So I want to talk a little bit more about what that transformation actually looks like and put some definition around this. So at the core of this transformation is Microsoft 365. We leverage services like Windows Autopilot. We leverage things like Microsoft Intune from a management perspective. But again, the key here is that we start with this Windows 10 signature image that came on the device. We're not building a custom image. We're not wiping that off. We're going to take that and turn it into what we want it to be. From there, we're going to configure all the settings that we want on that device as well. Now, new to Surface, and Surface is the only device to do this currently, we can actually configure UEFI from the cloud, and we'll dive deeper into that here in a minute. I can also add all my software and applications to this device, so that includes my line of business applications, third-party apps, Microsoft first-party apps, including the Office 365 Proplus client. Then I can configure that device for taking updates, define what I want that user experience to be, how often I want it to update. I can configure Windows features on this device. That also includes all of the advanced security features that are built into Microsoft 365. And then I want to deal with user data. So whether I'm bringing my user data back down to this machine from OneDrive for Business for an existing user or a redeployment or a device replacement, or whether I've got a new user logging into this machine for the first time and I need to back their data up to the cloud, OneDrive for Business is our key for data in this, and that gives us this production-ready, productive device for the employees. So this kind of defines that transformation, and this is what we're actually going to walk through how you configure that. So I also want to level set a little bit on this entire life cycle. So you think about a device life cycle from purchase to end of life, and you put this into the context of a Surface device. Again, we're going to leverage services like Windows Autopilot, Office 365, Intune, Azure Active Directory. But when a customer orders a Surface device from us, that reseller can be designated as a CSP partner. That gives that reseller the ability to actually register that device with the Windows deployment services on behalf of that customer. This is an automated process for them. Surface was the first device to do this, but this is the key to making Autopilot work, is that that device is registered to your corporation and tied to your tenant. We then sync that information over to the customer's Intune tenant. So the partner was not logged into the tenant on their behalf. They're doing this through Partner Center. We're syncing that information over to the customer's Intune tenant, where they can then apply policies and things to that device. So before this device ever ships out, we can now configure applications and policies and things like that for it. This allows that direct ship to the end user. So we don't have to bring that device in-house. We can ship it straight to the employee, and they can do a self-service provision on that device. Now that self-service provision is a zero-touch deployment that's driven by their corporate login. So the user is going to choose their language, their keyboard layout. They're going to log in with corporate credentials, and from there we're going to take over and do everything for them. So we're going to set all the policies that we want on that device. We're going to uplift that device to Windows 10 Enterprise. We'll also be able to make them a standard user on the device if we choose to, which Autopilot is the only way to make the first person who logs into a Windows machine a standard user on that device. I can deploy all their applications and data, again, managing those feature updates and Windows features for that device, and ending up with a fully enrolled corporate domain or corporate directory joined device. Again, for Surface, what's new is the ability to manage the firmware from the cloud. Now, as we transition that device from the provisioning state into steady state usage, we have all the tasks that go with that. So we've got the ability to re-provision this device. We've got the ability to end of life this device, to do a warranty replacement on this device. Additionally, leveraging the power of the cloud, we have the ability to do things like reset this device. I can wipe the corporate data off of this device, all through Intune remote device actions. And this really completes that full device lifecycle doing a modern provision. So now we're going to dive in and we're going to look under the hood. So I'm going to fly through what it takes to actually make all of that work. So if you remember, we started with the reseller or the CSP partner registering that device. So this is a shot of Partner Center, where as a partner, I'm going to go in and I'm going to search for my customer. When I find that customer, I actually have the ability to add devices to their tenant on their behalf. So I'm going to go ahead and upload a device for them or multiple devices. But in the process, I can also tag that device. I can put a PO number on it, an order number, just a text tag of anything I want it to be. So you can say these are my finance devices, my HR devices, or PO number 1234, whatever that is. Partner can configure that. And they add that device. It gets added to the tenant through the back end. So as a customer, when I log into my Intune tenant and I look under Windows enrollment in my devices list, I get to see the device that was registered through Partner Center because it's been synced over to my tenant. And in the middle of this bar right here, I can actually see the tag came through that they put on it. So again, there's order number, PO number, tag, whatever they want to do to it. The reason that that's important is because I can create a dynamic device group. So I order 10,000 devices. I don't want to go configure 10,000 times. So by creating a dynamic device group that actually looks for that order ID, I can now assign applications and policies and things like that to all of these devices, and anything that gets ordered underneath that tag is now going to be in this group, and all those policies magically apply. And that's what really creates the magic for that direct ship. So now that we have the ability to find these devices, we can go ahead and create policies and settings for them and apply them. So what we're configuring here is the out-of-the-box experience. So this is how simple it is to actually come in and create an Autopilot deployment profile. It's a little hard to read, but this is where I define whether or not I'm going to turn off the software licensing terms, the privacy settings. This is where I decide if they're going to be a standard user or an administrator on that machine when they get it. It's where I can apply a naming template to that device, but we're really configuring that out-of-box experience for them. From there, the management tooling is going to take over. So in addition to putting all of the settings and policies that I want to put on that device, we've really tried to make it easy from a security perspective. So what we introduced in Intune is the ability to apply security baselines. Security baselines can be versioned. So I choose the version of the baseline that I want to apply to those devices. Simply create a profile to give it a name. Now, within the settings of the security baseline, I can take the defaults. So I can just accept the security baseline that Microsoft has published and apply that to the devices. Or I can actually expand all these settings and tweak the ones that are important to me and that I want to do slightly different. But at the end of the day, I apply that to my group of devices, and I have security policies. To add applications, I can add applications that are Win32 apps, that are store apps. I can add Office to these devices. So any of the app types that I want to add, I can come in and add them to my list. So if you're configuring Surface devices, we also want to include these pen-friendly apps, so like OneNote, the whiteboard, things like that. We want to make sure that we can take advantage of all the capabilities that the hardware offers. So we really want to take advantage of the pen, things like that, to make our users most productive. So don't forget those apps. Now, out of my apps list, I can also configure the Office 365 Pro Plus client. To configure Office 365 Pro Plus to go down during this Autopilot deployment, I simply create a deployment package for it, and I select check the boxes for the Office applications that I want on this device. So in this particular one here, I'm not going to install the OneNote 2016, and I've taken out Skype for Business in lieu of Teams. We'll go ahead and save that. Now I get to decide the architecture I want. Am I going to do 32-bit or 64-bit Office? One side note, Office 64-bit is now the default installation. And then I also get to choose the channel that Office updates through. So this is how often my users are going to take updates. Whether I'm going to do monthly, semi-annual, etc. Whether I'm going to take out any existing MSI applications that are on the machine, if this is for an existing machine. Whether I'm going to use shared computer activation. Very, very easy to configure Office for these deployments. So for the IT admins out there who need to do a little bit extra to the machines, we also have the ability to apply PowerShell scripts. So you think about that last mile of configuration or that special thing you have to do that there's no real built-in policy for. I can actually upload a PowerShell script, decide whether that PowerShell script is going to run as system or it's going to run as the end user, and apply that to the devices as well. So now, as I mentioned a few times, so first on Surface is the ability to manage UEFI from the cloud. So there is no need to touch these devices in order to set hardware configurations. That means I can do things like turn off the USB ports, no more filling them with epoxy. I can turn off the camera at the UEFI level and lock those settings. Whether you are an admin on the machine, it gets rebooted, whatever, these will stick. They're also locked into this tenant. If it gets redeployed, it will redeploy those policies along with it. It is fully backwards compatible with SEM, the Surface Enterprise Management Mode. So to create this DFCI policy, I'm going to go create a standard configuration policy for my devices. But when I click create this time, the profile type I'm going to choose is Device Firmware Configuration Interface, or DFCI. Once I choose that, I have the ability to set the settings. And so here you can see I can enable the camera, disable the camera, microphones, speakers. I can stop you from booting from a USB device, which means the device can't be reimaged with a USB stick. And then I can choose what I want to lock. So I could lock all the UEFI settings, or I can only lock down the ones that I've policied as an admin and allow the user to change things that I didn't specifically control. The other thing that I have when I apply policies within Intune is I can apply applicability rules. So in this particular case, I'm only going to apply this policy if I'm running Windows 10 Enterprise. I assign that to my group of devices. Again, this is a dynamic group that picked up my DFCI capable devices. And I save that. Now all of those devices that I purchased under that PO number that came into this tenant, got registered, will have those DFCI policies on there. So I talked about completing that entire life cycle, right? So I can configure deployment rings through Intune as well. So now I can define how this device is going to get serviced. Is it going to take semi-annual channel updates? I could even put it in a Windows Insider ring if I wanted to. I can delay feature updates. I can delay quality updates. I can take driver updates from the cloud. One of the beauties of Surface is that all of our drivers, all of our firmware for all of our devices are available on Windows Update for Business. So it is fully capable of being serviced from the cloud with a great user experience. And I can control those policies and stage those rollouts from here with deployment rings. One of the other really important policies to do when you're doing this is to configure delivery optimization. Windows 10 delivery optimization is peer-to-peer caching for content that's delivered through Windows Update, but it also covers all content that's delivered through Intune and SCCM. So if I'm delivering content through Intune, whether I'm pushing down my apps to this device or Office to this device, what that means is I can actually get those bits from a peer of mine on the network rather than having to go to the web and download those. So it saves a lot of time and it saves a lot of network bandwidth and drastically improves the user experience. Now, I also mentioned those full device actions. So once I have this device provisioned, employees out there using it, this is where I have device actions within Intune. So I can come in here and I can wipe this device, I can retire this device, I can do an autopilot reset. Maybe there's just something wrong with it, we need to redeploy it. Maybe this employee is moving on to a different team, I need to redeploy his device to a new employee. I can do all of that from the cloud without having to actually go physically touch that device. So what we just described and what we just configured there is a user-driven autopilot deployment. So that means that this device was corporately registered. It was self-deployed by the employee when they got the device on a direct ship to them, and they brought down everything onto this device. So that employee brought down all their apps, settings, policies, things like that. which means I am now dependent on the amount of payload that I'm sending down onto that device, so how many applications I have, how large they are. I'm also depending on their network speed a little bit. I'm depending on that user to have the right expectations and a little bit of patience, perhaps. So what we introduced with Windows 10 1903, or the release that happened last spring, the May 2019 update, we actually announced White Glove for Windows Autopilot. White Glove allows our own IT staff, a partner, that CSP reseller, it allows someone to intercept that device and pre-provision that device. So this person's going to enter a key sequence when they boot the machine for the first time. They're going to hit the window key 5 times. They're going to choose to provision that device ahead of time for that user and bring down all those apps and settings that target this device ahead of time, and then reseal the device. When they reseal the device, it actually takes it back to the original out-of-box experience screens or the original UBI screens. So from an employee perspective, when I get the device, it looks exactly the same, except this time everything happens much, much faster because all that stuff's already actually downloaded onto my device. So a couple things to take away. So Surface is designed for modern management, all up. We were the first device to support Autopilot. We are now the first device to support UEFI configuration from Intune, and we are the only OEM to deregister devices on a warranty replacement or a return device. Surface devices ship with current and clean images, so you know that doing this dynamic provision, you get the best user experience and you get the best, or the cleanest enterprise image at the end. We also know that our new devices, so the family that we just announced, will be shipping with Windows 10 1903 and DFCI enabled firmware. So all of our new devices, the Surface Pro X, the Surface Pro 7, the new laptops, those will ship ready to go for DFCI. Our commercial image for Surface is tuned for Autopilot. We do have the Office 365 Proplus trial actually already in the image, so when you go to deploy that from Intune, we get a nice fast experience there. The rest of the image, again, is clean, and we are fully set up and ready for cloud management, which means when the device ships, firmware and everything on it is ready to accept cloud management. So Surface also has a commitment to continue to be the best device for Microsoft 365. And this goes from our innovative form factors, our natural inputs. All of our devices have simple and secure login with Windows Hello for Business because all of our devices support the infrared camera. We do have the ability to support all of the advanced security features within the Microsoft 365 stack on all of our devices from a hardware perspective. And again, all of our devices deliver all firmware, drivers, and everything you need straight from the cloud. So it really is the best device for that. We have a host of Surface sessions this week. There are a couple of things around DFCI. There's a deep dive tomorrow afternoon where we'll actually go really deep on the DFCI configurations. So that one's on here. Again, in the hub area, we do have a modern deployment area where you can come over and ask questions. You can see a modern deployment if you want to. We have several sessions around the rest of the device family. If you haven't picked up one of our devices and run it through its paces, you haven't tried the pens, etc., again, head over to the hub and check that out. We also have 2 hands-on sessions. We have one tomorrow at 4 o'clock and one Thursday at 4 o'clock. We're actually doing a provision yourself, changing some of those configurations. So I showed you that DFCI policy. You'll get to go in and tweak one, watch the settings take effect on the device. So that should be a very good session. So please check those out. Some resources for Surface. So we do also have a Surface Modern Management ebook. Talks about a lot of the benefits to going completely modern, what some of the benefits are from a management perspective, the time savings, cost savings, things like that. We also have a great resource at aka.ms/Surface Autopilot. It's kind of one-stop shopping. From that page, you can get to anything you need to configure Autopilot for Surface. And then the Surface UEFI management docs are now live on our doc sites. So with that, thank you. I'll hang out for a few minutes if anybody has any questions. But like I said, if you're interested in learning more or seeing it live, head next door. Thank you.